We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, brought to you by our good friends at MyBookie and Alumni Hall. And guys, you know what's up this weekend. We have a huge game with Texas coming to Athens for the very first time ever to take on our Georgia Bulldogs between the hedges. So I'm back once again this week with my deep dive preview of this big SEC showdown between Georgia and Texas here in Athens. But before we get there, guys, if you are a diehard Georgia fan, I think you're going to enjoy this episode. And everything we do in this channel is 100% designed for you guys. So go ahead and subscribe right now, turn those notifications on so you don't miss any of the content we have coming your way. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and comment what are your thoughts on this big matchup between the Dogs and the Horns. Love to hear from you guys, and thank you very much for all of your support. But all right, guys, we have a lot to talk about today. Huge game. We're going to go deep with this one. My goal, as always, is to give you guys the most in-depth breakdown of this Georgia game as you're going to find anywhere out there. Whether I hit that goal, who knows? That's what I'm shooting for. It's up to you to decide, but that is the mission here today. I'm going to use the same countdown format that I use each and every week here on the show. I'm going to give you 5 names to know from the Texas roster, some names that you Georgia fans need to be familiar with as this game approaches. I'll give you 4 stats that matter. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I got more than 4 stats this week. I got some bonus stats for you. But 4 stats that matter. 3 matchups I like. 3 reasons I like Georgia's chances to win this game. I'm going to flip it over and look at 2 causes for concern. 2 things that concern me about Georgia's chances to win this game. And finally, we'll wrap things up with 1 player to watch from this Georgia team. A guy I think is going to have a big day for Georgia on Saturday. But all right, guys. 5 names to know off the top here, as we do every week. We're going to start with the quarterback position because it is the most important position on any football team. And you guys know the quarterback for Texas. I don't need to tell you what you think about him. That's up to you. But we all know that Arch Manning is the quarterback for Texas. Yes, the runaway hype train. That is Arch Manning, at least the former runaway hype train of the offseason. Not so much now once we actually saw him play. He's still manning the quarterback position for Texas. Got banged up at the end of the Mississippi State game before their bye week, but he's back in action. He'll be playing. He actually played against Vanderbilt, so he'll be back and he'll be good, man. So he's been playing in this game. 2,123 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year, 62% completion percentage, 203 yards rushing. And those are solid numbers, guys. Like, if you look at those numbers on the surface, like, yeah, this guy's had a good year. But he also had some very real struggles early in the season. Those struggles were very, very well documented. You go back early in the year against Ohio State, week 1, against a really good team, guys. Right now, the number 1 team in the country, one of the best defenses in the country, didn't have his best showing. 17 of 30 for 170 yards, a touchdown, interception in that game. And guys, the numbers didn't do justice to how bad he was in that game. Some inexplicable decisions, some mechanical, like absolute mechanical failures on his part. Just a really bad showing by Arch Manning. Then a couple weeks later against UTEP at home. Not a good UTEP team, guys. 11 of 25 for 114 yards against Texas El Paso. Then against Kentucky, an SEC opponent a couple weeks back, 12 of 27 for a $132 on the road against Kentucky. They almost lost the game, probably should have lost the game, ended up winning in overtime, but the reason they were in overtime, a big part of that was Arch Manning just simply could not get the job done on the road at night in Lexington. So he has had some very well-documented struggles, but if you've watched Texas all year, if you watch them closely, you know he's also had some moments where he has looked the part. He has looked like that runaway hype train that we heard about all offseason, like the for sure number 1 draft pick and this future star, not just in college, but at the NFL level as well. And I will say this, unfortunately for Georgia, from our perspective here, those moments have been more consistent recently. If you look at his last 2 games, Mississippi State and Vandy, 29 to 46 for 346 against Mississippi State. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick in that game. Against Vandy, he was lights out, man. The numbers were spectacular. 25 of 33, 328 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, I will say there's some context there, guys. Those numbers are great and far improved from where he was earlier in the year. And if you're a Texas fan, you absolutely take that, man. Like, you're not looking for holes to poke into that. You know, you're saying, all right, those numbers are good, much better performance. I'll take that. And I get that. I respect it. But if you watch those games, he's still not really pushing the ball vertically down the field much. The vertical passing game is not really a part of their offense right now. They're trying, but they're just not hitting with any sort of consistency. There's a lot of catch and run in some of these passing yards. They pick up some of the big explosive plays they picked up against Vanderbilt early in that game. Ryan Wingo especially. It's a catch and run. They had a 75-yard catch and run touchdown in the first quarter of that game. So you're seeing a lot of that. There are some more explosive plays they're dialing up, but it's not so much Arch pushing the ball vertically down the field. But he is making better decisions, and he has been more accurate with the football. He's been more consistent with his mechanics. You haven't seen as many of the ridiculous, like, off-platform throws when you don't need to make an off-platform throw, like what are you doing type stuff, throwing in like quadruple coverage as much as he was early in the year, some of the inexplicable things. But I will say this, like, let's just be fair here, all right? He has looked better, absolutely, 100%. But you also have to ask yourself who he has been doing that against. Mississippi State and Vandy, okay? Now, look, I know Vandy's a much better football team this year. They're still very much in the college football playoff picture right now, sitting there with only 2 losses. But their pass defense has been very bad against SEC opponents. Just look at what Auburn did to them last week, guys. Look, I know they didn't have their Hugh Freeze is gone, and you have Ashton Daniels playing quarterback. But guys, Ashton Daniels played quarterback pretty much the entire game against Kentucky, and what happened in that game? They scored 3 points. Well, they scored a lot of points against Vandy, and they scored a lot of points through the air, man. Like, they threw all over Vandy. An Auburn offense that has been entirely incapable of throwing the football all year long. I don't care who you're talking about. They have not been able to throw the ball against anyone, and they straight up lit up that Vandy pass defense. Mississippi State, guys, it's still one of the worst defenses in the SEC. They're better than what they were a year ago, but they're still not very good, especially through the air. They also don't stop the run well at all. So those two defenses, Mississippi State and Vandy, out of the 16 teams in the SEC, they are number 14 and 15 in pass defense, passing yards allowed per game against SEC opponents. And I like to use the stat with SEC opponents because that is what Georgia is, right? Like, we're still an SEC opponent last time I checked. Ironically, the only team worse in the SEC giving up passing yards per game against SEC opponents is Texas. Actually, believe it or not, we'll get to that here in a minute. So that's kind of ironic. You wouldn't think that with how strong the Texas defense has been in other areas and how highly they're thought of throughout the country, but they're actually dead last in the SEC in passing yards allowed per game against SEC opponents. But Mississippi State and Vandy are right there, right behind them at number 14 and 15. So yeah, he has looked better, but it's been against 2 of the 3 worst pass defenses in the entire SEC against SEC opponents. So Arch is talented, man. There's no doubt about it. He's also a guy that's got some athleticism. They can use him in the design QB run game. He has the ability to create outside the pocket. Now, he kind of gets flusher sometimes outside the pocket, but he can escape pressure, can create outside the pocket on his own. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind as well. You have to have a game plan for his legs because they will use it, especially in short yards. They will use his legs, no doubt about it. In fact, last year, with Quinn Ewers as starting quarterback, Arch came in as a runner. There was a running package they had with Arch, man. That's how athletic this guy is. Now, you also have to have guys to throw to, right? So let's go to his favorite weapon in the pass game. Let's go number 2, Ryan Wingo, wide receiver, 6'2", 214, a former big-time 5-star recruit. George recruited him very heavily. Would have been great to land him. I thought we had a shot there for a minute, but he ends up going to Texas, and he's been good. He played some as a true freshman last year. Wasn't a major impact player, but played a lot as a true freshman. And the expectation coming into this year, he was going to be the guy for them at receiver, and he has been. I don't know if he has matched the expectations that Texas fans had for him, but that's not always reasonable. But he's been very good this year. 31 catches, 593 yards, 5 touchdowns. Now, he did get injured against Vandy, but he's expected back in this game. He's been practicing. It sounds like he's fine. He's good to go. He is the go-to guy for Arch, man. Now, there's a couple other weapons. Parker Livingstone's is a good weapon. DeAndre Moore in the slot's been around for a long time. He's a guy that can absolutely hurt you. He had a big play against us in the SEC Championship game in the second half of that game. So there's other weapons out there, but Wingo is the guy. You run Emmett Mosley from Stanford, who hasn't really been as good as I think they were hoping he would be. He really hasn't put up the numbers like he was never going to be Matthew Golden, but he hasn't even come close to touching those numbers and matching that production. But Wingo is the guy. He's the guy of all the pass options that you have to game plan for. He's the guy you need to identify and have a plan for. He is the difference maker, if they have one, with this Texas passing game. All right, let's go to the other side of the football for these next 3 players. Number 3, I got to go Colin Simmons, edge player. He's like the equivalent of like our Jack linebacker, essentially. 6'2 and a half, 6'3", about 255 pounds. he has become one of the single most fearsome edge rushers in the entire SEC. One of the most fearsome edge rushers in the entire country, to be quite honest with you. Cassius Howell at A&M is really, really good. Dylan Stewart at South Carolina is still really, really good. But Simmons is in that conversation, guys. Like, he has grown into I think, an elite. I don't think that's a stretch. I think he is an elite, not just pass rusher, which is what he was a year ago, guys. Last year, he was like a third down pass rushing specialist. Now, later in the year, he played more and more on standard downs, but most of the season, he was more of a third down guy. You bring him in, use his athleticism in those obvious passing situations to get after the quarterback. You can do some different things because he's a really good athlete. He has some versatility, but he has grown into what I think is an elite all-around edge player. He has 8 sacks, so he still has that in his game. But he's also become a really, really good run defender. He plays really hard, has a really high motor, extraordinarily athletic. This guy is a true difference maker for Texas on the edge. I'm not going to lie, y'all. He's the kind of guy I wish we had on the edge. I love our guys. Like, I love what we're getting from Gabe Harris, what we're getting from Quintavious Johnson on standard downs against the run. But you guys know our pass rush issues are well documented. We don't have a guy that can do both of those at a high level right now. That's ready to do it right now. Colin Simmons is that guy. And hey man, I'll be real. I would love to have a guy like that, but we don't. And we're gonna have to figure out a way to defend this guy or to account for this guy in our offensive game plan. He's a problem. There's no other way around it. He is 100% a problem. Number 4 here. You can't talk about the Texas defense without talking about what I think is arguably the heart of the Texas defense. Some people might say Michael Taft. We'll get to it in a second at safety, but I think Anthony Hill Jr. has a strong argument to be the heart of this Texas defense. Now a junior, man. It's hard to believe. I remember a couple years ago, it seemed like it was just yesterday. He was out there rushing the passer on third downs, kind of like Colin Simmons. But he's added some good ways. As a freshman, wasn't super big, wasn't big enough to have a standard down role. He, like Colin Simmons, as a freshman, was more of a third down pass rush specialist. But last year, he became a starter for them off the ball at inside linebacker, and that is where he is right now, up to that 6'3", about in the range of 235, 240. Full-time off the ball inside linebacker. Now they will slide him on third downs, right? Like they'll use him rushing the passer off the edge situationally, but ostensibly, like his primary position is now off the ball inside linebacker, but still has elite pass rush skills, can rush from all over the defense, from the edge, from the interior. They'll move this guy around, has a lot of versatility, and a fantastic athlete. He has 17 sacks in his career for this year. No, the year is not over, but hasn't been as dynamic of a pass rush threat because Colin Simmons has taken a lot of that load. But he did have 8 last year, again, 17 sacks in his career through now about 2 3/4 of a season at this point. But this guy, man, like he's a surefire first round draft pick. Like he's gone for this year, barring injury, and I don't want that to happen to anybody. But absolutely a guy that you have to account for. And like Simmons, Hill's a problem, man. Like they have a number of guys that are problems on this Texas defense. That's one of the reasons why they're so good, especially against the run. And finally, let's move back to the back end. I thought I want to talk about Trey Moore, another kind of edge rusher, was off the ball sometimes as well. It was a career edge rusher, now playing more off the ball. But I'm going to move back to secondary and look at the guy that I think you'd also make an argument for being like that other heartbeat of the Texas defense, and that is safety Michael Taft. To put this in the perspective of a Georgia fan, like to put it in terms that you guys would get, he is essentially like their version of Dan Jackson. That's kind of what Michael Taft is, a former walk-on who has become a star and is beloved by Longhorn fans across the country. And last year, I mean, like at least his trophy case is better than Dan Jackson's because last year he was a second team AP All-American. He has missed the last 2 games, but he is allegedly going to be back for the Georgia game. Now, what version of him you get? I don't know. They're coming off a bye week, probably 100%. I'm assuming he's going to be 100%. I don't know that. But the word is there's all the expectations in the world that he is going to be back and play in this game. Now, guys, the secondary for Texas has really struggled in recent weeks. And part of that could be because Michael Taft has not been back there at safety. Now, he's only one guy. They also have been without John McDonald, who is their other safety. So they're starting safeties there. So that certainly matters. Of course, you give us some explosive plays if you don't have your top 2 safeties back there. But they have struggled in the past game without him. But they were also struggling at times early in the year against teams that even like had a pulse during the football. So I want to put that out there. And it's not the passing issues weren't. It's not going to be completely remedied by him coming back, but certainly it will help in a big way. So he's a big time player as a guy that's very trustworthy back there. He's not going to blow a ton of assignments. He fills the lanes really well. He's a smart guy, knows the defense, really good athlete. Like Dan Jackson was a really underrated athlete. People want to give him credit for that. Dan was a great athlete. And Taff is the same way. Like you wouldn't think as a former walk-on, but he is a really good athlete. He's just a great player for Texas in the back end of that Texas defense. All right, so those are the 5 players to know from this Texas roster. Now let's move into our 4 stats that matter. And again, guys, normally I give you 4 stats that matter. I really try to limit it to 4 stats. I don't want this episode to go like an hour and a half, but it's a huge game, right? So I'm gonna throw some bonus stats your way this week as well. So off the top here, let's just start with the Texas offense, okay? Let's go there. I'll talk about the Texas offense, and we'll get into what they do well. But the first stat that matters, guys, is about how much this Texas offense has struggled all year long, guys. And I don't think that was. If you would have asked most college football observers back in mid-July, hey, what do you think the Texas offense is going to look like this year? They would say, I think it's going to be really good. You got Arch Manning, the hype train, Mr. Hype Train, going to win the Heisman Trophy, be the first pick of the NFL draft. You got Steve Sarkisian, offensive mastermind. They're going to be great this year, man. Like, they're going to be way better than they were last year with Quinn Ewers. You see that guy play last year? Yeah, it hadn't turned out like that, y'all. It hasn't. Right now, Texas is averaging 335 yards per game against Power 4 opponents and only 24 points per game against Power 4 opponents. Let me put that in perspective for you guys, all right? Can we all agree that the Auburn offense before last week, when they went wild against Vanderbilt, has been just an abomination? It's been abysmally bad. They've been atrocious, guys. They have been. But this Texas offense, as bad as Auburn has been offensively, I think we all agree on that, right? Got their coach fired. They've been that bad. As bad as the Auburn offense has been, the Texas offense is only averaging 4 more points per game against Power 4 opponents than that abomination of an offense that has been the Auburn offense all year long. And guys, on the road, it's actually even worse. They're only averaging 321 yards a game, 4.9 yards per play. They didn't get it done, and only 22 points per game on the road. Now, that might not seem like that big of a fall off from where they are overall, but those road numbers are skewed by that Mississippi State game. They scored 45 points in that Mississippi State game. If you take the Mississippi State game out of the equation, the other road games they have played against Power 4 opponents, there's 4 other road games they played against, I should take that back. There's 3 other road games they played against Power 4 opponents. They are scoring 14 points per game otherwise. When you look at Ohio State, obviously really good. Florida, not really good. Okay defensively, not a good football team. In Kentucky, okay? Those 3 games, they're averaging 14 points per game on the road. Mississippi State, yes. Okay, you don't want to completely throw that out because it was a road game. Scored 45 in that game. But that right now is the anomaly in terms of the offensive performances by this Texas offense on the road. All right. And this is not how it's supposed to go for them. They were supposed to be much better offensively. How could you not be with the marriage of Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian? It was supposed to be this explosive, wildly dynamic Texas offense, and it has been anything but that. Now, what Texas fans will tell you is, hey, we figured something out last 2 weeks against Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. And I would tell you, those are 2 horrifically bad defenses. Yes, Vandy's got a great record, but that's by and large because their offense has been really good and outscored teams. And then also the quarterback from Missouri got hurt in the fourth quarter, or Missouri probably would have won that game. Right? Just saying that. So the offense, any way you slice it, guys, if you're being objective, has been really, really bad for Texas. Now, specifically, if you really want to get specific, pull back the layers here, it's the rush offense. That has been the problem for Texas. And guys, you go back to last year, they didn't run the ball very well most of last year. Contravian Wisner, their star running back, their starting running back, I don't know if he's a star, but their starter back there, he came on about midway through last year and kind of stabilized the run game for them. Had a couple big games, but even when he became the guy for them, they were never a dominant or even like good rushing team. They became like a respectable running team, but they were never particularly good at that. And this year, guys, it's just been a straight up disaster for them trying to run the football. They are only rushing for 81 yards a game against SEC opponents. That's really hard for me to believe, guys. Like it's even worse than that. They've rushed for 100 yards or fewer in 4 of their 5 SEC games, guys. Against Mississippi State, that defense that Georgia just put up 3 bills on, more rushing yards against anyone that wasn't Florida State, like in the Orange Bowl the year when they basically had no real players. More yards than we've rushed against anybody since 2020. Missouri, October of 2020. 3 bills. That same Mississippi State defense in the same setting, right, in Starkville, they ran for 72 yards on 32 carries, 2.3 yards per rush. Against Kentucky, another defense who isn't particularly great this year, guys, Texas ran for 47 yards on 28 carries. So it's not that they're not trying. They're trying to run the ball. They just can't. 1.7 yards per rush against Kentucky, guys. Come on. Kentucky. Yeah, hey, they got 2 SEC wins now. Good for them. That's still not a good football team, y'all. Come on. It's not. That's how bad it's gotten for this Texas rush offense. That's the biggest issue. Arch has had his struggles, no doubt. The passing game is certainly not as dynamic. They don't have the dynamic weapons they had out wide. They don't even have, like, losing at tight end. They're not as good as they were at tight end last year. That's another problem for them. So it's certainly a combination of the pass game and the run game, but the run game has clearly been the biggest deficiency for the Texas offense. It's essentially been non-existent. Quintravion Wisener isn't the most athletic guy. He's got some good short area quickness. He runs with some power. He's got solid vision. C.J. Baxter's a guy who came in with all the hype. There was a five-star guy. I think it was his ACL tour, but I think he tore his ACL. But he was injured and went out for the year before the season started last year in fall camp. So he's coming back, he's coming off injury. He just hasn't been the same guy. The running game hadn't been there, guys. And also, their offensive line. They lost so many players off that offensive line from a year ago, and it just has simply been a major disappointment for them. They have not gotten the job done. They're blowing assignments. They're not getting consistent movement. It has not been a good look for them up front. So that has been the single biggest issue for them, guys. 81 yards a game against SEC opponents. So offensively, it has been a problem. And the reason Texas has struggled at times this year and almost lost to both Kentucky and Mississippi State, won both those games in overtime, and has their playoff hopes like hang on by a thread right now with 2 losses already. The only reason that they're even in that position is their defense. Their defense has been elite, guys. The Texas defense right now is second in the SEC and 16th nationally, giving up 4.6 yards per play. They are 11th nationally in scoring defense. So if you don't want to call that elite, okay, can we at least say like knocking on the door of elite, borderline elite? They have been really, really good. It's clearly the strength of this Texas football team. I would call one of the premier defenses in the country. And I think that's primarily because of how good they have been against the run. So let's get to that. My fourth stat that matters here, specifically, the Texas defense is so good because they have been flat out dominant against the run. There's no other way to say it, guys. They have been dominant against the run all year long. They are second nationally, giving up only 78 rushing yards per game. In the SEC play, get up a little bit more, but still really good, guys. Only about 93 yards per game on the ground against SEC opponents. They have held 7 of their 9 opponents this year under 100 yards rushing. Now, they did give up a buck 59 to Florida, who I think Jane Ball is a good back, but that's a team that really has not run the ball with any sort of consistency all year long. Gave up nearly 140 to Kentucky. I think Seth McGowan's a good back, but they've also had their struggles consistently finding a way to run the football this year. So there have been some games that have given up some yards. They haven't been gashed like Mississippi State last week, giving up 300 yards to us. Not like that, but there have been some games against teams that kind of can run the football and have some good backs, and like Georgia, we kind of have some good backs, right? Where those teams have had some success running the ball. I was shocked, honestly, watching that Texas-Florida game a couple weeks back, about a month or so ago now. I picked Texas coming into that game. Obviously, Florida was struggling, but I really like Texas' chances to go into Florida and win that game, even though I have respect for the Swamp as a tough place to play, because I did not think Florida was going to be able to run the football. And if Florida couldn't run the football, with Texas' ability to rush the passer, as we'll get to in a second, and the struggles Florida has had protecting DJ Lagway coming into that game, I thought it was going to be a nightmare for the Florida offense. But they found a way to run the football consistently. Maybe not explosively, but they were biting off 4 or 5 yards a pop. And Jane Ball had a really good game against that Texas front. So you can. It's not impossible to run the ball against this Texas team. It's just hard to because they are really good, by and large, against the run. But here's the thing with the Texas defense, guys. So here we're going to go into bonus time here, right? My fifth stat that matters here. I know it's only supposed to be 4. We're going with 5 today. Well, actually, we're going to go with 6 today. The fifth stat that matters is that while they've been awesome against the run, as good as anyone in the country stopping the run, they have been extremely vulnerable against the pass, especially in recent weeks. Right now, guys, I kind of teased a little bit earlier, talked about how Mississippi State and Kentucky are Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are 2 of the 3 worst passing defenses in the league against SEC opponents. Well, who's the worst? It's Texas. And guys, it's not even particularly close. Texas is giving up an SEC worst 303 yards passing against SEC opponents per game. That's 20 yards per game worse than the next closest team, which would be Vandy. So it's really not even close, guys. They've been really, really bad against the pass. Now, what a Texas fan wants to tell you is that it's because Michael Taft and Jelani McDonald have missed a couple games. They're starting safeties. And that certainly is a factor. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not. Of course. We got the back end there, the guys that are your safeties, right? Who, if they don't, if your safety blows an assignment, blows the coverage, it's 6 for the other team, right? So that is a factor, no doubt. But their issues go back further than the injuries to Taft and McDonald. Those are more recent things. Guys, Florida. Let's go back to Florida. Florida, DJ Lagway, who just got benched because he was so freaking bad against Kentucky. That Florida team, that DJ Lagway threw for almost 300 against this Florida defense, 298 to be exact, which is by far the highest passing output from the Florida offense all year long. And that's the Florida offense that's 13th in the league in passing offense. And they got straight up lit up by Mississippi State and Vandy. 382 and 365 yards passing, respectively, there. Even Kentucky threw for 258, all right? And that was before the injuries. And Kentucky is 14th in the SEC in passing offense. Now, Mississippi State, Vandy, they throw the ball really well, right? And that's when they had some injuries at the safety position. So you can throw that in there, and you have to factor that in. But again, it's not just those two games. If it was just those two games, I would be more willing to listen to the argument that, oh, it's just because our starting safeties have been out. There are multiple other games where they have had a lot of issues starting the pass against teams that really cannot throw the football at all. I'm talking about Florida, I'm talking about Kentucky. Those teams can't throw the football, right? And honestly, guys, let's look at it this way. Statistically, hey, this is not me putting my takes out there. These are verifiable stats. Go run the numbers. Go check the numbers if you want to. Verify me here. Double check me. Statistically, Texas is actually worse against the pass than both Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and even Tennessee, who's been really bad against the pass this year because they've had both starting corners been out pretty much all year. They've been worse than all of those teams against the pass against SEC opponents. And what did we do to all 4 of those teams through the air? Well, against Tennessee, we threw for 304 and 9.5 yards per attempt. Kentucky, we threw for 245 at 9.1 yards per attempt. We would just run the ball, so we didn't have to throw the ball that much. Ole Miss, we threw for 289, 9.3 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns. Mississippi State, 264, 8.8 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. And all 4 of those defenses are better against the pass, against SEC opponents, than this Texas defense is. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there, guys. And Gunnar Stockton is a different player than he was back in week 3 when we were playing Tennessee on the road. Back in week 4, or I guess it was week 5 when we played Alabama. He's gotten better week after week, guys. We're seeing the best version of Gunnar Stockton right now. We're seeing the best version of the Georgia passing offense right now. And the offensive line is healthier than it has been at any point in the season. So that helps us a really dynamic Texas pass rush that helps us give Gunnar time. We have Zachariah Branch, who has emerged as a go-to guy, 35 catches over the last 4 games. He has become the guy for Georgia passing game with Colby Young going out with the injury. And it's not just him. There's multiple playmakers emerging. We saw Elias Williams doing some big things in the passing game. I know it's not a ton of catches out there, but we've seen the ability, and he's become more and more a part of the passing game. I think this game could be a game where he has even more opportunities. And you saw Noah Thomas go out there and have a big catch run against Mississippi State. So there are weapons out there, guys. London Humphreys do good things for this offense as well. Dylan Bell, there are weapons out there, guys. And Gunnar Stockton is playing a really high level. The offensive line is playing a really high level, protecting him. All right. Now, finally, all right, the last stat that matters here. So those pass rush issues that Texas has experienced, as we just are those pass defense issues that Texas is having that we just detailed there. It's hard to make sense of, man. It really is. Because, like I said earlier, they're awesome against the run. They're second nationally in rush defense. And they're also incredibly good rushing the passer. They're second nationally in sacks, 34 sacks on the year. So what that means, if you can stop the run, like they do, as well as anybody in the country, literally as well as anyone in the country, that means you're probably getting teams in third and long on a pretty consistent basis. And then when you get teams in third and long, when you have arguably the most lethal pass rush in the country, you should have a lot of success against teams trying to throw the football, right? They shouldn't be able to throw the football because they're in third and obvious a lot, which you know they're going to throw the football. And you have this dynamic pass rush, which can pin their ears back and get after them and get the guy on the ground and force him into mistakes. But it's not happening. Still, some way, somehow, it's like paradoxical, guys. Some way, somehow, this Texas defense is still giving up more passing yards per game to SEC opponents than anyone in the league. That tells you how bad they are in the secondary, guys. It's the only way you can make sense of it. You have the best rush defense in the league, second best in the country, second best pass rush in the country, but you're still getting lit up through the air to the tune of 303 yards a game against SEC opponents. How do you make sense of that? How do you explain that? The only way to explain it is that's just how bad they are in the secondary. And I know Michael Taft is good. Shalani McDonald's a solid player. At corner, they got some issues there, guys. In the slot DB position, got a freshman playing there. They got some issues. So it's just one of those things that's really hard to wrap your head around when you think about how good they are stopping the run and how good they are rushing the passer, that they're having all these issues against the pass. All right, guys, let's move into our next section here. I'm going to give you 3 reasons to like Georgia's chances to pull out the victory here between the hedges on Saturday night. Number 1, the Georgia rush defense against the Texas rush offense. So what we have here, guys, is a matchup between one of the bottom 4 rush offenses in the SEC and one of the top 4 rush defenses in the SEC, right? The Georgia rush defense has been not quite as good as the Texas rush defense, but not all that far off, guys. Like we have been, I don't know if I would say elite, but as I say pretty much on a weekly basis, borderline elite. Like we're right there on the cusp of elite status stopping the run. That's certainly what our defense does best. And what does Texas do worst offensively? Run the football. It's almost non-existent for them. So I think with Georgia's ability to stop the run and Texas's inability to run the football, that means Georgia should be able to get Texas into 3rd and long on a relatively consistent basis here. Now, of course, with a bye week at his disposal, I expect Steve Sarkisian to come out and throw some wrinkles at us. I do expect a solid dose of QB run game to try to stay ahead of the chains, because I think he knows that it's going to be really important for them on the road to stay ahead of the chains and not get in 3rd and long, and they can't run the ball in the traditional way on a consistent basis. So how do you kind of mitigate that? You try to take back the numbers, because Georgia's probably going to play at a too high shell, so you want to take back the numbers, and you can do that with the quarterback run game. So I do expect the Arch to probably pose a threat with his legs in this game and design QB run stuff. But when you really look at it, guys, the performance of both units, the Georgia rush defense and the Texas rush offense, to date, indicates that the Georgia defense should absolutely be able to control the Texas ground game. Get them in 3rd and long against an offensive line that has really struggled in SEC play, guys. This Texas O-line has given up 15 sacks in 5 SEC games. Not a math guy. That's math I can do. That's 3 sacks per game against SEC opponents. For comparison's sake, Georgia, which has been a mash unit on the offensive line for most of the year, in recent weeks we've gotten healthier, but we've only given up 11 sacks in 7 SEC games. 2 more SEC games, 4 fewer sacks than what this Texas offensive line has given up against SEC opponents. And look, guys, I know that we have not really been able to take advantage of our ability to get teams in 3rd and long this year, because we just have not had much of a pass rush. We had 8 coming into last week. Now we had 3 last week against Mississippi State, and I know that's Mississippi State, and you can throw some cold water on that and say, but Tyler, think about the opponent. I hear you. Some of those thoughts are in my head. But can we at least admit last week was a step in the right direction? And I'll also go back a couple previous games, guys. Florida, we didn't get a lot of sacks, right? But we were able to get DJ Lagway off his spot on a relatively consistent basis. Like we were affecting the quarterback. And that's really what you want to do. Ideally, you want to get him on the ground, sure. But can you at least affect the quarterback? Against Ole Miss, I thought we affected the quarterback later in that game. Didn't get him on the ground. Had some shots to get him on the ground. We just couldn't get him on the ground. Auburn, first half, especially the second half, had opportunities to get Jackson Arnold on the ground. Actually showed some signs of life as a pass rush, but just couldn't get him on the ground. Guy's a dynamic athlete. So we've seen signs of life in recent weeks leading up to last week. So that's why I'm more apt to think that that could be a sign of things to come than I otherwise would be if it was just like, okay, we struggled so much in recent weeks, haven't even been close in recent weeks, and this all of a sudden happened. That'd be kind of an anomalous situation. But I don't think that's the case. And here's this too, guys, compounding the issues for the Texas offensive line. If we can get them in the 3rd and long, right? Our pass rush hasn't been great. I think it's been getting better. But changes some personnel like Zayden Walker on the field, right? And the Texas O-line that has struggled in SEC play is going to be playing in a raucous environment at night in the SEC, which means they're going to be playing without the benefit of a snap count. Why does that matter? Because that gives the Georgia edge rushers an extra beat, an extra half step to get to the quarterback. And I think that matters against anyone, but especially against the Texas offensive line that has been struggling to protect the quarterback against SEC opponents, which again is what Georgia is. All right. Now, the second reason I like Georgia's chances in this game is the quarterback matchup. Now, my man David Pollock kind of stole my thunder a little bit earlier in the week. I had this, guys. I had this in my notes. I promise, as early as Sunday. But he's right. I totally agree here. The quarterback matchup in this game, in my opinion, is pretty clearly favoring Georgia. Look, Arch is absolutely playing better lately. Like I said earlier, the guy is playing better lately. The numbers have been better. Now the competition, I think you got to factor that in. But he's making better decisions with the ball. He's been more accurate with the football. Not doing some of the truly inexplicable things that he was doing earlier in the year. But he has been up and down all year long. And I would still say this: when pressured, even in recent weeks, when pressured, that's when his mechanics fly out the window. He's prone to some truly mystifying decisions at times. He's got a little DJ Lagway in him. I think both these guys, they're similar in that they have all the talent, physical tools in the world, but for whatever reason, man, like when the bullets are flying, they do make some of the most ridiculously mystifying, incomprehensible decisions that a quarterback can make. Like this, you're watching, you're just going, huh? What are you doing? It's hard to make sense of it. And I would also say that, look, man, like there haven't been maybe a ton of big moments for Arch this year, but when the moments have been big, when the lights have been brightest for Arch Manning this year, by and large, he has shrunk in those biggest moments. And he still has a little bit of that deer in the headlights look to him. Like you saw last year when he came in against us, and they tried to switch things up and bench yours for a little while. They brought Arch in to see if they could kind of spark the offense, and like obviously it didn't. And we took it to Arch pretty quickly. You can see like the deer in the headlights. Look, he still has some of that in him, guys, when things don't really go well and he gets pressure. And the reality is, objectively, guys, because I know I'm a Georgia guy, but objectively, Georgia has or Gunnar Stockton from Georgia has quite simply been the better quarterback really all year. He has been, guys. He's been more consistent. He's been more trustworthy. Guys thrown 2 interceptions all year. And one of those wasn't even his fault. It was a bounce off. He put the ball right where it needed to be, the receiver's hands, and just bounced right off of his hands, and his interception, right? So he's been more consistent, more trustworthy, and clearly more clutch. Where ours is kind of shrunk in the big moments, Gunnar elevates in the big moments. Gunnar is at his best in the big moments, guys, and he's done it against a more difficult schedule. And Texas has had a more difficult schedule than I thought it would be preseason. Vanderbilt's been better. That's a part of it. Obviously, Ohio State is good. But when you look at this game, and I believe this is a game where the margins look, the talent's very comparable, right? And the coaching is both sides have really good coaching. So I think this is a game where the margins will be tight. I expect it to be a tight margin game. And when that's the case, and those types of games where the margins are reduced, I believe the most important position on the field, which I do believe is quarterback position, takes on increased importance. It's already important. I think it takes on even more importance in a game like that and can be a decisive factor. And quite honestly, guys, I'm just going to say it. I just trust Gunnar more right now. Call me a homer if you want. If you're a Texas fan who's found this video, call me a homer. That's fine. But objectively, outside of the hype train the preseason, outside of Arch Manning's prep ranking relative to Gunnar Stockton's prep ranking, how could even the most staunch Texas fan out there argue otherwise? How could you possibly argue that Arch Manning is a more trustworthy quarterback right now? It's nonsensical. You can't really. Like you can say it if you want to, but like it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing to support that. There's no tangible evidence to support that. Gunnar is a guy that's he's been good all year, but he is the past month, guys, he has taken his game to another level. Arch has improved, sure, but Gunnar has done it at a high level against some really, really good defenses. Arch, not as much. All right. So I do think that is an advantage for Georgia here. Then finally, the final big advantage I think Georgia has in this game, a reason to like Georgia's chances to win the game, is the home field advantage here. Guys, Texas has been a different team in true road games this year. It's beyond just Georgia being able to play at home, having the crowd behind them. Texas has been really bad on the road, guys, in true SEC road games. Texas is being outgained by an average of 116 yards per game. They have only outscored those three road SEC opponents by 2 points combined, 82-80. And who were those three SEC opponents they played on the road? Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, not one of which currently has a winning record. Look it up, guys. Those are the facts. Georgia, on the other hand, at home, has outgained its SEC opponents by 91 yards a game, outscored its SEC opponents inside Sanford Stadium by 9 points per game. And who have those games been against? Oh, yeah, Alabama, number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. Ole Miss, another top 10 team in the college football playoff rankings. And Kentucky, not great, but hey, they're 5-5 now, guys. So Georgia's opponents, when they've been doing all that at home, we played 3 SEC opponents, none of which have a losing record. So I don't care what anyone who hasn't been to a Georgia game ever or hasn't been to a Georgia game in 25 years or went to some random Georgia game against Louisiana Monroe one year. I don't care what they say about Sanford Stadium because it doesn't hold water, guys. Those of you who have been in the stadium, and I mean, really my entire life, but certainly the last 10 years under Kirby Smart, you know what I'm talking about. Sanford Stadium is a legit home field edge, guys. It is rocking, man, especially for night games like this. In Texas, again, clearly, as I laid out for you, has not been anywhere near as good against SEC teams at home. Playing all on the road, as I mentioned, affects the offensive line, and their quarterback also has not been as good on the road. So I do think that is a massive advantage for Georgia in this game. I know we lost to Alabama earlier in the year, guys. We did that to ourselves. We made a couple mistakes. Alabama didn't. Give them credit. They deserved to win that game. But before that game, remember that home winning streak we had? That didn't happen by accident, guys. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Just keep that in your mind. I do think that is a big edge for Georgia in this game. But there are also some legitimate causes for concern here. Guys, Texas is good. They're going to pose a legit threat to us in this football game. This is actually a game that Texas could very easily win. And the biggest cause for concern for me as a Georgia guy, and I think for you guys as Georgia diehards, is can Georgia run the ball consistently, even like remotely consistently, against one of the, if not the best rush defenses in the entire country? Guys, Texas run defense is awesome. Like I'm not going to beat around the bush, man. They are awesome against the run, and they also, as I said earlier, have a ferocious pass rush. That is a troublesome combination for an opposing offense. Because if you get in a third long, which most teams are getting in third long against Texas because they can't run the football, right? So if Texas can get you in third long, you are in trouble because they got that pass rush that can get after you. Now, how do you mitigate that? Well, I think you got to use the design QB run game. I think Texas is going to do that against us to try to counteract our really good run defense. I think we need to do the same against Texas. We haven't used Gunner in the design QB run game as much recently. He got banged up against Auburn, and coming to the Ole Miss game, we didn't really want to use him at all. Kirby said that openly. He wasn't even practicing Monday and Tuesday, so we were like, all right, we're just not gonna run you. And Gunner's like, Coach, I got to run. Like it's part of my game. I got to show the team. I got to run. But we have kind of backed off on the number of plays where we're dialing up to actually run Gunner and design QB run stuff. I think this game you got to throw it out the window, man. Like you got to run Gunner because they are really, really good against the run. And how do you kind of counteract that? You take back the numbers of the QB run game, right? That's what you do. And then if they can't stop the QB run game when we get the increased numbers, what are they going to do? They're going to bring bodies in the box, and that creates some opportunities one-on-one against some of those corners that I think have been leaky this year, so to speak, right? So I think you got to use the QB run game liberally in this game if you're Georgia. I think you got to throw on early downs, going to keep that Texas defense off balance, not knowing what to expect there. I think we are going to have some chances to hit some explosive plays in the pass game on early downs, but we also have to find a way to run it. And I'm not saying we're going to run for 300 yards like we did against Mississippi State. Like that's not going to happen, guys. I'm talking about like get 3-4 yards a pop. Can we get in a 2nd and 7? Can we be in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, even 3rd and 5? I'd take. Can we be in those situations as opposed to 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11? You can't be in those situations just that passionate. I mean, our offensive line's been a lot better, but you do not want to be in that situation consistently against the type of edge rushers and just pass rushers in general that this Texas defense will throw at you, right? And that's a concern because Texas does stop the run better than really anyone in the country. Even though we run the ball very, very well, they stop the run very, very well. And if we can't find a way to run the ball, which could happen, guys, against a team that's that good against the run, that could spell trouble for Georgia in this football game. And my second cause for concern, now, I know some people think I make too much of this, and maybe I do. Maybe you're right. But I do think that Texas coming into this game off of a non-mutual bye matters. I think it matters. Call me crazy. I think it matters. And we've seen that this year, guys. We've seen it time and time again this year. When opposing teams, their offenses have an extra week to prepare for our defense, we've had a lot of issues stopping those teams in the first half of games. We've gotten behind. You know it. It's well documented right now. Fortunately, our defense has done a great job of kind of gathering themselves and adjusting and shutting teams down in the second half. Shut out Alabama in the second half. Shut out Auburn in the second half. But the first half of those games, that's what lost us the football game against Alabama and put us in a really troublesome spot against Auburn. Now, fortunately, we were able to do enough in the second half to win that football game, but you can't count on being able to claw back like that against this Texas defense. Like, if we get into a big hole, like if they come out with Steve Sarkisian dialing up all these plays, throwing all these wrinkles at us that we haven't seen, and there's no way to prepare for it on tape because we haven't seen it all year, and it gets us a couple times, and they get out to a two-score lead early, maybe it's 10-0, maybe it's 14-0, maybe it's, I don't even want to think about it being worse than that, but if something like that, it's going to be a lot harder to claw back against this Texas defense because they are that good. They are better than the Ole Miss defense. They are better than the Alabama defense. They are better than the Auburn defense. Auburn's got a good defense, but they're better than the Auburn defense. And while the Texas offense has not been especially good this year, they haven't really been overly explosive. They've been inconsistent. They've been inefficient. They're only 37th nationally in the FEI adjusted offensive efficiency rankings. But Steve Sarkisian still, I mean, I'll give the guy, I'll give him props here. Let's call him an offensive mastermind, guys. Like, that's his reputation, right? He's an offensive guy, a really good play caller. And you give a guy like that an extra week to dive into the tape, do some self-scouting, look at what we struggle with, and throw some wrinkles out there. You can't change your entire offense, but you can adjust some things, right? It's different than like Florida. Yeah, Florida threw a new coordinator at us, but that guy had no experience at this level, really. I mean, he was calling plays at Alabama A&M a couple years back, but not this level, right? Steve Sarkisian is a different beast. He's one of the better offensive minds in the country. You give him an extra week against a Georgia defense that struggled against teams that had an extra week to prepare, that don't have offensive minds as good as Steve Sarkisian pulling the trigger back there. That absolutely concerns me, man. Like, maybe I'm making too much out of that. I know, maybe I am, but that does concern me, especially when you see the struggles we've had against teams that had extra time to prepare for us, whether that was Alabama. I know we had a bye, but their offense had an extra week and they did some things that we weren't prepared for. Tennessee had basically the entire offseason to almost completely change what they do against us offensively, do things that we had never seen from them in past years. There's a reason why they finally scored more than 17 points against Georgia defense the first time in the Josh Heupel era. Auburn, the first half, even had some success, and they were doing some things that we had not seen. Throw some adjustments, some wrinkles at it. So what are we going to see from Texas? That is certainly a concern for me here in this game. And finally, guys, my one player to watch on the Georgia roster, a guy that I think can have a huge game for Georgia, can be a big part of why Georgia can win this football game. Let's go with the signal caller, guys. Let's go with the quarterback. Let's go with the man. Let's go with Gunnar Stockton, guys. I think this is a game where Gunnar Stockton is going to need to come up big for Georgia. Like I said, the quarterback matchup, when the margins are small, that could be a big deciding factor in a football game like this. So I think Gunnar is going to need to come up big for Georgia. And I think that this is another game where Gunnar does come up big for Georgia. Why do I think that? Because the guy, all he does is come up big for Georgia in the biggest moments. Whenever we need the guy, he elevates his game. He shows up in the biggest way possible. So why would I think that's going to change this week? Yeah, the Texas defense is the best defense we played all year. They're really freaking good. Sure, of course. But I think Gunnar is going to be a bigger part of the game plan this week in the design QB run game. Again, we haven't used him as much in that role in recent weeks. Been banged up a little bit. I think he returns in that role, comes back to us, and we use him in the design QB run game more in this game than we have in recent weeks, which gives you numbers against a really good Texas run defense. And with the struggles of the Texas pass defense, if we can stay on schedule, which I think his ability to run the football and us using him in the design QB run game, whether he's actually carrying the football or using him as a decoy or optioning off of people, right? If we can use that effectively enough to just stay ahead of the chain, stay on schedule, stay out of third and long, I do think we're going to have some opportunities to create some explosive passing plays down the field against a Texas defense that has been prone to giving up some big passing numbers this year. I know they get their safeties back. I get that. But their corners have still a struggle, guys. They have. So I think Gunnar Stockton is going to be a big factor in this game. In fact, I think he is going to be the factor in the game and might have I don't know if I'm going to go as far as saying his best performance today. I don't know if you can say that against the best defense, but I think Gunner is going to have the better showing of the two quarterbacks and is going to lead Georgia. We'll say on the victory. I'll say my prediction for the end of the week, but is going to lead Georgia through this game and hopefully lead the Dogs to the promised land and get out of this game with a W. But I will be back later this week, guys, on Thursday with my final score prediction for this game. I'll also give you guys a couple keys to the game. Just kind of wrap up my thoughts here on this big matchup between the Dogs and the Horns. But thank you guys again so much for being here. I do greatly appreciate you. If you are a diehard Georgia fan and you stuck it out here, this is the kind of content you can expect all the time here on this channel. All this that we do here is designed for you guys. So go ahead and subscribe right now so you don't miss any of the content we have coming your way. Like the video, comment again, what are your thoughts on this game? How are you feeling? I love to hear from you guys, but thank you so much for all your support. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.